To Sell is Human, The Surprising Truth About Moving Others by Daniel H. Pink. Picture this, a grainy black and white photo from mid-century America. There's a guy in a fedora, lugging a heavy sample case up someone's front steps. He's got that smile. You know the one, equal parts friendly and determined. He's about to ring the doorbell, ready to whip out a free vegetable scrubber just to wedge his foot in that door. Meet the Fuller Brush Man. This guy was everywhere in the 20th century, such a fixture of American life that even Disney knew it. Remember the big bad wolf in The Three Little Pigs? Yeah, he disguised himself as a Fuller Brush Man to trick his way inside. These salesmen were as common as mailboxes, and then, poof, they vanished. Fast forward to 2012. The Fuller Brush Company goes belly up. Around the same time, Encyclopedia Britannica, with its legendary door-to-door army, stops printing books altogether. It felt like the credits roll in on the entire era of the salesman. I mean, who needs some guy with a briefcase when you can buy anything from your couch in your pajamas? When you can look up product reviews on your phone while standing right there in the store? Salespeople started to seem about as relevant as telephone switchboard operators or those guys who used to deliver milk to your door. Makes perfect sense, right? The story practically writes itself. Except here's the thing. What if that whole story is totally, completely backwards? Today, we're diving into a mind-bending idea from Daniel H. Pink. Fair warning, it's going to change how you see pretty much everything you do. Your job, your relationships, even those awkward family dinners. Pink dug into the data, studied the trends, really looked at how we actually live now, and came back with something shocking. The salesman isn't dead. Not even close. In fact, every single one of us has become one. By the time we're done here, you'll see the world through a different lens. You'll realize that whether you're studying literature, coding apps, teaching kindergarten, or fixing teeth, you're in the business of moving people. And here's the kicker. That's not something to cringe at or run from. It's something to lean into, because the ability to move others, real selling, in its truest form, is fundamentally, beautifully human. So let's kick things off with a simple question. How do you actually spend your day? A while back, Daniel Pink asked himself the same thing. He grabbed a notebook and tracked everything he did for 2 solid weeks. Every meeting, every phone call, every email, every random conversation. Now, Pink isn't a car salesman or an insurance agent. He's a writer. But when he stepped back and looked at the pattern of his actual life, something weird emerged. He spent a massive chunk of his time trying to convince, persuade, and influence people, coaxing an editor to change direction on a story, persuading a business partner to jump into a new project, even negotiating with his kid about taking a shower. He was, in every meaningful sense, selling. And then it hit him. You probably are too. Here's where it gets interesting. Pink dug up a fact from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. 1 out of every 9 American workers is in traditional sales. That's over 15 million people, whose job is literally to get someone else to buy something. America has more salespeople than factory workers. The sales force outnumbers the entire federal government by more than 5 to 1. Pretty surprising, right? But hold on, because that's just the warm-up. The real bombshell is what the other 8 out of 9 workers are doing. Pink commissioned a groundbreaking study to find out, and here's what he discovered. People who aren't technically in sales spend about 40% of their time at work doing what he calls non-sales selling. That's 24 minutes of every single hour spent persuading, influencing, and moving others. Teachers are selling kids on why math matters. Doctors are selling patients on why that painful physical therapy is worth it. Entrepreneurs are selling investors on a dream. We're constantly pitching ideas to colleagues, persuading bosses, nudging our kids. Like it or not, we've all ended up in sales. So how did this happen? How did we all become sellers without even noticing? Pink points to 3 massive shifts: entrepreneurship, elasticity, and EdMed. First up, entrepreneurship. Here's the irony. The very technology that was supposed to kill salespeople has actually turned more of us into them. Think about Etsy, eBay, Instagram shops. Suddenly, millions of people who make jewelry or art or weird custom t-shirts have their own digital storefronts. Kickstarter lets anyone with a half-decent idea pitch it directly to strangers on the internet. You can literally run an entire business from your phone. This explosion of small entrepreneurs means more people are wearing every hat in the business, and one of those hats is always sales. Second, elasticity. The old world had neat boxes. Accountants did accounting. Engineers engineered. Salespeople sold. But today's world moves too fast for that kind of specialization. Companies are leaner, flatter. They need people with elastic skills, the ability to stretch across roles. That engineer can't just write elegant code anymore. She needs to understand what customers actually want and pitch her ideas to the team. That manager can't just bark orders. She needs to persuade people to buy into a new direction. Whatever your job title says, your actual job almost certainly includes a hefty dose of selling. And third, EdMed. That's Pink's shorthand for the two fastest-growing parts of the economy, education and healthcare. And think about what teachers and doctors actually do. They move people. A teacher moves a student from not knowing algebra to understanding it. A physical therapist moves a patient from injured to healed. These jobs aren't about closing deals. They're about transforming lives, and that requires a sophisticated ability to move others. So here we are. We're all in sales. But let's be honest. For most of us, that phrase makes our skin crawl. When Pink asked people the first word that popped into their heads when they heard sales, the results were pretty brutal. Words like pushy, slimy, sleazy, dishonest, and manipulative topped the list. The stereotype that comes to mind is that guy in the cheap suit at the used car lot, ready to say whatever it takes to make a buck. But here's the thing. That terrible reputation has almost nothing to do with the act of selling itself. It has everything to do with how selling used to work. For most of history, commerce ran on a simple idea, caveat emptor, buyer beware. Why? Because the seller almost always knew way more than the buyer. This is called information asymmetry. The car dealer knew that transmission was about to die, but you didn't. The realtor knew about the mold problem, but you didn't. When one side has all the information, they have all the power, and that power breeds deception. But that world is gone. The internet killed it. Today, a car buyer can walk onto the lot knowing the invoice price, the repair history, what every competitor is offering, sometimes more than the salesperson knows. The power has flipped. We've gone from caveat emptor to caveat venditor. Seller beware. In this new landscape, those old pushy tactics don't just feel gross, they actively backfire. Honesty, fairness, and transparency aren't just nice-to-haves anymore. They're survival essentials. When your customer can instantly fact-check you and then blast their experience to thousands of people online, playing dirty is basically professional suicide. This fundamental shift changes everything. It means the old sales mantra, always be closing, that aggressive line from Glengarry Glen Ross, is dead and buried. Pink says we need a new set of principles for this new world. And these aren't just for people with sales in their job title. They're for all of us. They're the new fundamentals for being effective at moving others. A is for attunement. Attunement means bringing yourself into harmony with other people and the context you're in. It's about seeing the world from their side. And the research here is fascinating. Try this quick experiment. Take your finger and draw a capital letter E on your forehead. Did you draw it so you could read it, or so someone looking at you could read it? That tiny choice reveals how naturally you take other people's perspectives. Pink lays out 3 principles of attunement. First, increase your power by reducing it. Studies show that when people feel powerful, their ability to see things from another person's perspective crashes. They're way more likely to draw that self-oriented E. But when you approach a situation assuming you have less power, you naturally become more attuned. You listen harder, observe more carefully, see through their eyes. Second principle, use your head as much as your heart. We often confuse attunement with empathy, feeling what someone else feels. Empathy is great, but when it comes to moving others, perspective taking, understanding what someone is thinking, is often more powerful. Research on negotiations shows that negotiators who focus on what the other side is thinking, not just feeling, get better results for everyone. Third principle, mimic strategically. Humans naturally mirror each other. We unconsciously copy posture, gestures, speech patterns. Scientists call it the chameleon effect. Studies show that when salespeople subtly mimic their customers, those customers rate the experience more positively and are more likely to buy. The trick is being strategic by being human. It's a signal of trust and connection. And who's naturally best at attunement? Not who you'd think. For decades, we've assumed extroverts make the best salespeople. But study after study shows the correlation between extroversion and sales performance is basically zero. The real superstars? Ambiverts. People in the middle of the introvert-extrovert spectrum. They know when to speak and when to shut up, when to push and when to pull back. They're the masters of balance. Good news, that's most of us. B is for buoyancy. Anyone who tries to move others has to face what one veteran salesman called an ocean of rejection. Your idea gets shot down, your pitch falls flat. The door literally slams in your face. Buoyancy is about staying afloat in that ocean. It has 3 parts: what you do before, during, and after you try to move someone. Before the encounter, the secret is interrogative self-talk. The old approach was pumping yourself up with affirmations. I'm amazing, I've got this. But research reveals something more effective. Instead of making a statement, ask a question. Instead of, I'm going to nail this presentation, try, can I nail this presentation? Why does this work? A question, unlike a statement, demands an active response. It forces your brain to search for answers, strategies, reasons. You start thinking, yeah, I can, because I prepared thoroughly, I know this stuff cold, and I've got a killer opening story. It taps into your intrinsic motivation, which is way more powerful than cheerleading yourself. Think of Bob the Builder. He doesn't declare, we will fix it. He asks, can we fix it? And the response, yes we can, is way more energizing. During the encounter, you need to manage your positivity ratio. Groundbreaking research by psychologist Barbara Fredrickson shows that to truly flourish, people need to experience positive emotions in roughly a 3-to-1 ratio over negative ones. This doesn't mean being delusionally upbeat. Some negativity keeps us grounded in reality. But positive emotions, joy, interest, gratitude, broaden our thinking and make us more creative and open. In a sales situation, this positivity is contagious, making the other person less defensive and more willing to collaborate. After the encounter, especially after rejection, the key is your explanatory style. This is legendary psychologist Martin Seligman's work. He discovered that people explain bad events to themselves in different ways. Those with a pessimistic style see setbacks as permanent. This will never change. Pervasive. This ruins everything. And personal. It's totally my fault. This mindset is crippling. But people with an optimistic explanatory style, the ones who stay buoyant, see setbacks as temporary, just a rough patch. Specific, that particular client wasn't the right fit. And external, he was probably having a terrible day. In a landmark study of insurance salespeople, Seligman found that those with an optimistic style sold 37% more insurance and were half as likely to quit in their first year. Optimism isn't fluffy feel-goodism. It's fuel for resilience and persistence. C is for clarity. The final piece of the new principles is clarity. the ability to help others see their situations in fresh, revealing ways. In the old world of information asymmetry, the salesperson's job was solving problems. You had a problem, they had the answer. But today, if you know what your problem is, you can usually solve it yourself with a quick Google search. The real value now is in finding problems. The most effective movers identify hidden challenges and help people see issues they didn't even realize they had. Take retirement savings. People are terrible at saving for their future because we see our future self as basically a stranger. Throwing more financial information at people doesn't help. The breakthrough came when researchers identified the real problem: the psychological disconnect between present and future selves. The solution? They showed people digitally aged photos of themselves. Suddenly, that future stranger became real. People who saw their older selves put more than twice as much money into their retirement accounts. That's clarity in action. So how do we provide clarity? Pink gives us 5 powerful frames, ways of presenting information that help people see it differently by answering the question compared to what. First, the less frame. We assume more choice is better, but it's often paralyzing. A famous study showed that a jam display with 24 flavors resulted in far fewer sales than a display with just 6. By limiting options, you provide clarity. Less really is more. Second, the experience frame. People get way more lasting satisfaction from experiences than from stuff. So don't just sell a car. Sell the freedom of road trips, the family sing-alongs, the memories waiting to be made. Third, the label frame. How you label something profoundly shapes how people see it. In one experiment, when the exact same game was called the Wall Street game, only a third of people cooperated. When it was called the community game, 2/3 cooperated. A simple label frames the entire interaction. Fourth, the blemished frame. This one's counterintuitive. Adding a small negative detail to an otherwise positive description can actually make it more persuasive. Why? Because it highlights the positive information and makes you seem more trustworthy. Fifth, the potential frame. We usually think we should sell ourselves based on past accomplishments. But research shows people are often more intrigued by potential than achievement. The uncertainty of what could be makes it more interesting than what already was. Attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. These are the new foundations for how to be. But Pink doesn't stop there. He also shows us what to do. This means mastering 3 crucial skills: the pitch, the ability to improvise, and the commitment to serve. The old elevator pitch is dead. In a world of short attention spans and information overload, we need a new toolkit. Pink offers 6 fresh approaches. The one-word pitch. What's the single word you want associated with your idea? For Google, it's search. For Obama's 2012 campaign, it was forward. The question pitch, as Ronald Reagan showed with, "Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?" A question can be way more persuasive than a statement because it makes people think and come up with their own reasons for agreeing. The rhyming pitch rhymes, boost what's called processing fluency, making ideas feel truer and more memorable. Think Johnny Cochran's "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." The subject line pitch every email is a pitch. The best subject lines appeal to either utility offering something useful or curiosity offering something intriguing, but rarely both at once. The Twitter pitch forces brutal conciseness. The most effective ones ask questions or share genuinely useful information and links. The Pixar pitch every Pixar movie follows a simple 6-sentence structure: once upon a time underscore underscore underscore. Every day underscore underscore underscore. One day underscore underscore underscore. Because of that underscore underscore underscore. Because of that underscore underscore underscore. Until finally underscore underscore underscore. This structure is a powerful, persuasive way to tell any story. But what happens when your pitch goes sideways? That's when you need to improvise. Like improv theater, the key isn't having a perfect script, it's having the right principles. First, hear offers. What sounds like an objection is often an offer in disguise. If someone says, "I can't afford that right now," they're not just saying no right now is an offer. Listen without an agenda, and you'll hear possibilities you'd otherwise miss. Second, say yes and instead of yes but. The word but shuts down conversation. And builds on it and opens up new paths. It's a tool for collaboration, not combat. Third, make your partner look good. This is the improv version of win-win. Instead of trying to defeat the other person, your goal is helping them shine. When you do that, you both create something better. Finally, we arrive at the highest skill, to serve. The old model of sales was transactional. The new model is about service in the deepest sense, improving others' lives, and, by extension, the world. This requires two things. First, make it personal. Pink tells an incredible story about radiologists who were shown a patient's photo alongside their CT scan. When the photo was present, the radiologists were more empathetic, more careful, and their diagnostic accuracy increased dramatically. Seeing the human being behind the medical file transformed their work. Service means moving beyond solving puzzles to serving people. Second, make it purposeful. We're not just motivated by self-interest. We're deeply moved by contributing to something larger. In a hospital study, signs encouraged hand washing. One said, "Hand hygiene prevents you from catching diseases." Another said, "Hand hygiene prevents patients from catching diseases." The second sign, appealing to purpose, was vastly more effective. This leads to Pink's final, beautiful idea, servant selling. It's the belief that those who move others aren't manipulators. They're servants. They serve first and sell later. And the ultimate test is this. If the person you're selling to agrees, will their life actually be better? When the interaction ends, will the world be a tiny bit better? If the answer is yes, then you're not just selling, you're doing something meaningful. You're honoring the most creative and decent parts of human nature. You're proving, once and for all, that to sell is human. When you first hear "we're all in sales now," it might make you squirm a little. It might conjure images of forced grins and awkward cold calls. But as we've walked through Daniel Pink's ideas, hopefully you see it for what it really is. An incredibly empowering way of understanding human connection. What Pink has done is rescue the word selling from its sketchy reputation and put it back where it belongs, right at the heart of how we live. He shows us that moving others isn't fundamentally about commissions or quotas. It's about connection, understanding, helping someone see a new possibility, discover a hidden problem, or improve their life in some small way. If you're young and building your path, this idea is a superpower. Every single day you're moving others, persuading a professor to extend a deadline, convincing friends which restaurant to try, pitching your parents on why you should take that road trip. Soon enough you'll be pitching college admissions folks on why you belong there, and employers on why you're exactly who they need. This book gives you the tools to do all that, not by being slick or pushy, but by being more attuned, more resilient, and clearer in your thinking. In other words, by being more human. Attunement, buoyancy, and clarity aren't just sales tactics, they're life skills. Learning to see from someone else's perspective, to bounce back from rejection, and to bring clarity to confusion will help you in literally every area of your life. The most powerful lesson for me is the shift from winning to serving. The idea that you should always make your partner look good is revolutionary. It reframes every interaction, not as a battle, but as a potential collaboration. It suggests the path to getting what you want runs straight through helping others get what they want. That's a beautiful and seriously effective way to move through the world. So how can you actually use these ideas starting today? Here are 3 simple moves. First, next time you're facing something intimidating, try interrogative self-talk. Instead of telling yourself, "I've got this," Ask yourself, can I do this? Then actually answer the question. List the reasons why you can. You'll be amazed how this tiny shift primes you for success. Second, pick an idea or project you care about and try explaining it using the Pixar pitch. Forcing your story into that simple 6-sentence structure will clarify your own thinking and make it way more compelling to others. Third, in your next conversation where disagreement pops up, consciously respond with yes and instead of yes but. Watch how it shifts the energy, how it opens doors instead of slamming them. It's a tiny language tweak that can lead to massive changes in your relationships. That was a summary of To Sell is Human by Daniel H. Pink. We've explored the main ideas today, but let's be real. A summary is like scrolling through vacation photos. You can see the pretty pictures, but you can't feel the sun on your face or smell the ocean breeze. The real magic happens when you actually read the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase clicks with you in an unexpected way. This summary is designed to help you figure out if this journey is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today sparked your curiosity, grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely shift how you see yourself and your place in the world. There's a link to the book in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it helped you understand these ideas, please consider liking and subscribing. It lets us know we're doing something right, and make sure you don't miss our next dive into another transformative book. Let's keep growing together.